as part of one of the riders that this decision is going to affect a lot, my first part of the question is, how come you only selected 2 when you had a good number of candidates that I thought deserved an opportunity to hear what, like Leslie and David have, is to say what their ideas for making this team and this country a better nation. And as a rider, is there any way that we can get an opportunity to hear a little bit more than just 2 of them? Because for the life of me, I can't work out how you've gone from 9, the selection committee's gone from 9 to 2. And as a leading rider in this country, I would have really thought that you would have booted out a few of the ones that are a little bit out of it, and then narrowed it down to maybe 4 or 5, where the riders could hear more than 2 people's ideas for a successful coaching dream. And as a rider, I know there's a lot of other riders feeling the same, that we feel like we would have liked to hear more ideas and proposals from some of the other candidates. Thank you.
I'll be happy to answer that question, but that really doesn't pertain to Leslie right now. So I just want to make sure, in his time as a candidate, are there any more questions for him? Okay, thank you. Leslie. Those who are on the phone, did you hear the question that Boyd posed about process? Okay. All right. I'll review from how the process worked, because that's really the question you're asking. When the search committee was formed, we were basically given our charge. We were given the criteria that came through the eligible event riders, and the Federation left us to do our job. There was no participation by anyone from the Federation other than to answer technical administrative type questions. In the process, we determined that we would create a short list out of the candidates. We did not pick a magic number. We could have picked 2, we could have picked 3, we could have picked 4. But we felt that out of a working list of 6, the maximum number we wanted to have would be 3, because we felt that there should be discerning criteria that would create a workable number to make a recommendation from. Through the process of the interviews, which were approximately 45 minutes to 1 hour for each of the candidates, the contents of which, due to the confidentiality of the work of the committee, I cannot disclose, each candidate had an opportunity to speak directly to the committee, and all of the committee was participatory in asking questions. Some answered questions better than others. Some presented plans better than others. No one did poorly. This was really a question of good, better, best. Good was getting 9 applications. Better was the process of the interviews so we could arrive at best, which has not happened yet, which would be the identification of the successful candidate. So the decision was really one of the search committee to go forward with what we felt were the 2 strongest recommendations for candidates based upon what we learned through the interview process using the criteria.
I think this question is more specifically what criteria you discern to decide exactly why these 2 people go forward and that.
Communication skills, it's leadership, the ability to ride, their international competitiveness, their ability to work within the scope of an international competition system. Does that answer that question? Now, to the second part of your question, the search committee will meet again following these interviews so they can determine a ranking of the two candidates. Then we will make a recommendation to the writers and to the eventing high performance committee. The writers will have the opportunity to meet and discuss the recommendation. They have the opportunity to make their own recommendation to go forward. But the search committee's charge will end when we make our report, which is a recommendation. It's not a decision. Did I answer your question? Sure. That's all here on the phone.
So, sorry.
Well, I think the question is...
Well, let me make my comment first, Eric. You know, one of the things is this is a crucial decision in American history. Like, the coach that gets picked here is it's seriously going to change a lot of the riders' lives in this room. For the search committee to disregard a promising candidate on the way they interview, I think is ridiculous. For example, I'd never select my vet after talking to him on the phone. I wouldn't select my farrier or my blacksmith after talking to him on the phone for 20 minutes. It's more than that, and we feel as the riders that for the search committee to maybe cut off someone's chance to tell everyone what they've got because they weren't a good public speaker, I think is ridiculous, because a great coach might not actually be the best person on a phone call. So that's my first comment. And a few of your specifications on what makes a great coach was as international rider or this or that. I mean, there's a number of the candidates who've been chopped off absolutely met that criteria. So my gut feeling is that the selection process came down to a 20-minute phone call, and I think that's unreasonable, and I really feel the riders feel strongly that we would love to have this opportunity to hear what some of the other candidates would have to say in a forum like that Leslie and David's had to say, because, as I said before, this is a huge, huge decision for the sport in this country, and if we mess it up or don't give someone a chance to say what they've got to say, then I think we're only chopping our own arms off, and it's a little bit more effort, and I think it'd be worth the people, hopefully having some of the other candidates put themselves up and at least hear what they've got to say, because these two guys, what we heard today, were fantastic, but I'm sure there's a couple other proposals with some other interesting ideas that we should hear out, because the next 10, 15 years of our eventing career is seriously about to change. Alison?
It would be great. I mean, I think that a lot of people have reacted very big. I mean, I was surprised that it was only to myself. I believe in the system that was put forward and what the search committee was meant to do, and I think they did the right job. I think a lot of the riders have to understand that it's not dead right now. These are recommendations going forward. You have to, I think people need to do a little bit of research about all that goes into this. And it's, I think that there was a lot of outrageous reaction to all this. And I know it's surprising to only have two. I understand where you're coming from. I completely agree, but it isn't dead. And maybe we can talk a little more about the process, because this will be a recommendation that came forward. But there are great people on the search committee, and I don't think it was just cut off at a 10, 20-minute phone call. I think there's a lot more that went into this. So maybe, I think it might be nice to just clarify more of the process, and if there is another step that goes forward, I don't know.
Thanks, Allison. Yeah, let me just talk a little bit about the process, because the process and this procedure that was created is almost 18 months old now. And the athletes helped build it. And in fact, the Active Athletes Committee picked the two people that were going to be on the search committee, Amy and Kim, right? Kim Severson. So your involvement has been 14, 18 months old, and it's been terrific. I mean, it has been really good, and I think it's been transparent at the same time. Now, the night before last, we convened a meeting with the search committee as a result of some of the conversations that we were hearing, and we spent an hour and 15 minutes on the call. And at the end of the call, I said, are you guys still comfortable, search committee, are you still comfortable with the decision that you made to put two candidates forward, or do you want to change that decision and put others forward? I'm not going to direct you to what to do, you tell me. And guess what? The search committee unanimously agreed, and I would say adamantly unanimously agreed to keep the two candidates going forward. So that's where we were as of about Monday night. Now here's the process going forward. The search committee will make their ultimate decision to recommend maybe both Leslie and David, or maybe just one. And that will go to the High Performance Eventing Committee. That recommendation will also come to the Active Athletes Committee. And you guys have an opportunity to either accept that recommendation or to put somebody else that was on the applicant list. So you have another bite at the apple. You've had a seat at the table the whole time. So you have that opportunity to either accept or reject the recommendation from the search committee. And if there's another applicant that you want to put forward, you have all the right in the world to do that. That recommendation that you make, that you decide, will then go to the Eventing High Performance Committee, and they may end up looking at two different candidates, one supported by the athletes, one supported by the search committee. I hope that's not the case. I hope we can agree that by the time we get to the High Performance Eventing Committee, that there will be unanimous support between the search committee and the athlete committee. So that's the process going forward. The question is, and Becky asked, in order for the writers to put another name forward, do they have to reject the recommendation from the search committee? I would say it slightly differently. I don't think that you have to reject anything. I think you can reserve the right to put the name forward that you want. Okay? You can add to the list. You can add to the list. I wrote to Amy yesterday, I think. Maybe the night before. No, it was yesterday. Was it yesterday we wrote? It was yesterday, and I wrote to Amy in her role as the chair of the committee and outlined a timeline. I mean, the timeline still is to come up with a decision around the time we go to Lexington for Rolex. And if you guys decide that you want to support, or if you want to put another name forward, let's have that by the 25th of March, Friday the 25th of March, so that it gives the High Performance Committee an ample amount of time to debate it by the time we get to Kentucky.
If we decide